Hi, I'm Tori Bowman, and you're watching Underestimated, a show about breaking barriers for people with disabilities. Underestimated is brought to you by Coretree, a division of Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. On this episode of Underestimated, we're talking about aging with a disability, and specifically heart health. I speak with Sybil Bergen from Bergen Motion in Barrie. Oda chats with Joan Lewis about what she does to stay active. And later, my friend Diana McCauley and I tour some hidden gems in Simcoe County where you can have fun and get in your physical activity for your heart however you move. Stay with us. Sybil Bergen is a physiotherapist specializing in neurological rehabilitation. Sybil and her family built Bergen Motion, a family-owned physiotherapy clinic in the Barrie area. Welcome to Underestimated.
Thank you.
So let's start with your family business, Bergen Motion. It's in its second generation. What drew you to physiotherapy?
That's a long story, and I'm going to try and keep it really short.
Mm-hmm.
I think more important is what drew me to work with people with spinal cord injuries, I think. It starts a long time back when I was working in Switzerland for 6 years, and I had an opportunity to learn a lot about aquatherapy and PNF and Bobath, and I took a number of courses. So that's when it started. And then I came to Canada, and I just simply continued getting to know more, educating myself more about spinal cord injuries. And it just developed into that slowly. So It wasn't one day.
Yeah.
Yep.
How do you help people aging with a disability safely build physical activity into their routine?
So I think I start the process with everybody, and it doesn't really matter who that is, what kind of injury somebody comes to me with. I initially want to understand what is their current level of activity, and that could be, are they willing to go see their friends? Are they going to a gym? Or are they just simply staying at home a lot, like this happened during the pandemic, right? So understanding what their level of activity is, and then I want to understand what their goals are. And their goals could be so different. I just worked with a fella this morning who wants to become a Paralympian, and that's not for everybody. Somebody else might want to do weight loss. Somebody else wants to get back to a gym. So it really is a very personal goal that we have to kind of explore together. And in order to do that, the first thing I really also need to do is to understand what their body structure looks like, where are the limitations, where are the abilities, how do they sit in their chair, are there any kind of structural impairments that I have to pay attention to. So I'll look at their bone alignment, I'll look at their ability to move on a mat table, for example, which I call mobility, just being able to transfer, and how do you turn on your left, how do you turn on your right, and just really understand how do they move best. I might also look at what their heart rate is like. So, and then to be able to use that heart rate, right? To consider some exercise options. So looking at what their resting heart rate is, and then calculating what their target heart rate is.
Okay.
Right? And then we'll talk about it. And just say, okay, these are the limitations, these are the abilities, and now let's find a way to how we're going to get you more active.
Yeah. So what would be some exercise options that address cardiovascular or heart health?
So, sorry for that. So I'll probably first go back to this whole mobility issue. Mobility meaning, getting from the chair, transferring to a surface, or getting on the floor, turning. Can you get on your hands and knees? Maybe can you lay on your belly? Lots of people can't, so we need to look at that. So that mobility in itself is a cardiovascular exercise, right? Getting into this position, a very low key type of activity, but it is a type of activity. We have weight training. We can do weight training. We can use free weights, and we can use pulleys. We can go swimming. That's another opportunity. We can use ropes. I don't know if you've seen these big long ropes that you can actually, right? And that's a huge...
Those are hard.
They're very hard, super hard, right?
Yeah.
But some people can do it and some people can't, right? I might look at cycling, some kind of cycling. Could be an arm cycle, could be what's called the motomet. I don't know if you're familiar with those.
Could you describe that in case?
Yeah, a motomet is a passive way to do a cycle. So the machine basically does the activity for you. If you can participate and push as well, the machine picks that up and actually allows you to add that little bit of extra that you can do. And the same thing for the arms. Right?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and wheeling outdoors. Let's just think about the outdoors and just say maybe just wheeling through the park is a physical activity.
So physical activity is a time commitment, which many of us don't always feel like investing. How do you help people with the motivation?
I think it comes from an understanding of what you need. I think it comes with education. So, and an understanding what you like to do, right? So, if I know that my body needs to stretch more, maybe that's where we go.
Okay.
If my body needs to be more, increase the heart rate, then that's where we go. And then we have to figure out what is it that you like. So many people come to me and say, I hate going to the gym. Okay, we don't have to go to the gym. So understanding what you need and understanding how you can do it, because there's so many ways of doing it. We don't have to be scared of gyms. We don't have to swim. We can do it in a different way, right? And then I believe the other piece that would be very motivating is when we can find an individual that will support us through this here. Is it the physio? Is it my mother? Is it my sister? Is it my PSW? Is it a trainer? Is it it can be a friend. It could be anybody, right? So then we take that activity and say, let's just support it. If we decided that wheeling in the park is my physical activity that I'm going to do today, bring a friend. Go out, explore that particular park. How am I going to manage that hill? How am I going to manage the hill down? How many breaks do I need to take? And that's okay.
So that's a good segue. What should people watch out for?
They should watch out for a number of things. They should watch out for, first, I think, the first piece, and I'll go back to the physio piece.
Okay.
Pick the right physio. Don't just go anywhere. Because if you go to a clinic or you go somewhere where they don't understand your condition, you're wasting your time. Just really find a physio that understands or has worked with somebody with a spinal cord injury. That is really, really important. And explore your wishes and explore your current activation pieces and go with that. Don't force something that your body doesn't want to do.
So listen to your body.
Listen to your body, find the right person, and get the supports that you need.
That's great.
Right?
Thank you, Sybil. Yeah. So how can our viewers learn more about what you do at Bergen Motion?
Well, you can go to our website, which is www.bergenmotion.ca. Bergen spelled with an I, Bergin, just in case, because there is some people that spell it with an E. We are on the website. There is a lot of information on different conditions. There's quite a few blogs on it as well, and some information about ourselves. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Joan Lewis sustained a spinal cord injury in 1975 and has found living and aging with a spinal cord injury means constantly adapting. She has participated in competitive and recreational sport, from archery to kayaking to sailing to mindfulness-based stress reduction. She joins us now to talk about motivation and trying new things. Welcome, Joan.
Hi.
Let's talk about adapting. You have decades of lived experience with spinal cord injury. Can you share a few examples of how you've adapted over the years?
Sure. Oh gosh. I would say, one thing you can count on in life is that things are going to change. They are constantly changing. As someone who grew up in a family who was very physically active, I came to realize after I was injured, when all my family and friends were out skiing, that I was going to need to develop other interests in order to remain engaged, and remain physically active, but in a different way. There wasn't adaptive skiing at that time, so that really wasn't an option for me. And I also just didn't tolerate the cold very well anymore. So I started looking for other things that I might be able to do. And I was living in a relatively rural community at the time, and I was looking for someone to teach me how to play the flute, but couldn't find a soul to teach me how to play the flute. So I learned there was a fellow living down the road from me who had been an Olympic archer. So I took up archery. And he had an archery range there. The guys lifted me down the stairs in my chair into the range, and I learned how to play, how to do archery. And I took that up for many years and became very competitive in archery at an international level, and really enjoyed that for a number of years. And then when I started working in a demanding full-time job, it became too much to do that archery at that level. So it was kind of like having a second job at that point. So I was looking around for other sports I might do, and I wanted to do something simply recreational. So I took up kayaking. I knew some people who were kayakers and that were able to help me get in and out of the boat and transport the boat on the roof of the car, that kind of thing. And then I started developing some neck challenges and shoulder challenges. So I gave up the archery. I'd also moved to Toronto at that point, and I learned about the sailing club here through an article in the Canadian Paraplegic Association magazine at that time, and learned that they existed. So in 2000, I took up sailing and got back into competitive sailing and had a lot of fun with that. I traveled to Florida for competition.
On that vein, I've been sailing as well, and I found it to be one of the recreational activities that I enjoy. And the most enjoyable recreational activity that I currently do is hand biking with my partner, and I find that incredibly rewarding. And on that topic, I found it very important, the connections that I've made in biking, and so I wanted to ask you that question. In your recreational activities, what's the connection for you between social interaction, physical activity, and your mental well-being?
Well, they're all intricately connected, I think. It's always fun to meet new people, hear their stories and their experiences. There's always social connections that take place around sports, whether they're individual sports or group sports, because even in individual sports, you meet and connect with other people. I've met people all around the world through sports that I've done, which has just been marvelous. And being socially connected with people really, I think, is extremely important in terms of your mental well-being. And doing sport or doing anything physically active, creates endorphins in your system, and that creates a sense of well-being as well. So all of those things, I think, contribute to mental well-being.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as someone who's tried a lot of different recreational and physical activities, I'm looking forward to your answer to this next question. What are a couple accessible recreational or leisure opportunities people might not have tried that bring you joy?
Well, one of the things that's really important to me is connecting with nature. And when I was injured, I was studying fish and wildlife technology, which I gave up and eventually studied occupational therapy at university and had a career in occupational therapy, working in mental health and addictions. But after I retired, I really found I was craving to be more involved in nature. And I'd been very curious about the ravines in Toronto and wanted to know more about them. So I ended up joining the Toronto Field Naturalists and doing a number of walks with them. They offer 140 walks and lectures per year, and it's an entirely volunteer-run organization. And eventually I joined one of their committees, the walk committees, and the agenda for me was to develop the accessibility features that they have in their walks. So all of the walk descriptions now contain information that people can use to figure out if it's something they think they would be able to do. It tells you about the grade of the slope. It tells you about the surface. It tells you about whether there are stairs or not, whether there are railings on the stairs, where washrooms are in those walks. So that was very OT-ish of me to do that, but it's also just natural to my life in a wheelchair. So that's something unusual that many people might not think of, but I highly recommend the Toronto Field Naturalists if people are interested in that.
That's a really great suggestion. I had never thought about that. That's interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story with us, Joan. We really appreciate your time.
My brakes. I'm here today with my friend Diana McCauley to visit some beautiful spots in Collingwood that are accessible for everybody to enjoy. So what motivates you to get out there and be active?
Well, the number one for me is I've been in the chair, using a chair for over 30 years, so it's hard on your body. So the number one motivator is to cut down on the pain. And it's just great being outside and, getting into nature. So I don't need a lot of a push to do exercise. It's always been something that I've enjoyed.
So would you be somebody who relies on a friend to get out there, or are you pretty good motivating yourself on your own?
I'm pretty good motivating myself. It's fun to go out, with a friend, like when you and I go for our strolls and whatnot. But, I'm pretty good with doing it myself as well.
What are your favorites? Your top three, maybe?
My top three? I like to get out on my bike because it's good cardio exercise. You can really get going quite fast on the bike, so that's a good one. Pickleball's kind of fun. I've just started playing it and, sort of batting the ball around. We don't really play games, but it gets you outside, and you can do pickleball indoors as well. And just to go for a walk and be in nature is something that I like to do. So
what is pickleball and why should we try it, or me in particular?
Well, it's kind of like tennis. It's the rackets are quite a bit lighter and smaller. You play with a ball that's almost like a wiffle ball. And you use a tennis court. A lot of tennis courts now that you find in the community have drawn on the lines for pickleball, so it's a smaller space. You're not running back and forth as much. It's pretty easy to pick up, and it's kind of something you can play with someone with, anyone with a different level of experience. So it's fun, and it's like tennis in a lot of ways, but you get 2 bounces before you have to hit the ball, and there are some other rules that I don't usually I haven't really paid much attention to. For me, it's more getting outside, getting active, and doing something other than sitting on the couch and watching Netflix.
So how common is it in your experience to find natural spaces that are accessible?
You have to look. Sometimes it's a little tricky to find them, but online, if you're looking at a particular outdoor space, there may be some information about accessibility. Oftentimes if I'm going somewhere, I might phone ahead and find out about accessibility. So you have to kind of go looking for it. But for me, it's worth the look.
Specifically when it comes to getting out into nature, what's the benefit there and the tie-in to heart health?
Well, it's good. It's good for your mental health, which is good for your overall well-being. The heart health, I find, if I'm looking at something that I want, cardio heart health, if you're talking about that, then the bike or, an arm ogometer that I have at home I would use to kind of get my heart rate going. The gears are here. It goes up to 7 gears. And then the chain, which is, a chain like on Tori's bike, is up here. And you're going backwards with these to brake. And then there's kind of a parking brake that you can put on when you're getting on and off. And I like this one. There's a lot of bikes that are lower to the ground, more for racing, but I like this one. Suits me. It's more of a recreational one because it's an easier transfer. So my regular wheelchair is about the same height, so it's not a big transfer for me. And that's about it. The bike I got through a company, like a mobility company in Toronto, but the bike I think is made in the U.S. So it was shipped up from the U.S. And my husband and my kids gave it to me one year for Mother's Day. So it was kind of a fun thing that we could do as a family, and so that's kind of how we all got on the bikes and out on the trails.
Nice. So where are we going today?
So we're going to do a little bit of a trail at Sunset Point. There are a ton of trails in Collingwood. Most of them are former rail trails, so they're nice and flat, which is nice. This bike has 7 gears on it, but it's nice to have something that's flat. So there's lots of places to go in Collingwood that are suitable for this bike. But today we're going to go along Sunset Point and look at the trail here, which is a great location right by the water.
Yeah, that's for sure. And number 2?
And number 2, we're going to go to the Arboretum in Collingwood, which is a beautiful space with a boardwalk. And boardwalks are always good for wheelchair users, obviously very flat and kind of gets you out into boggy areas that you wouldn't normally be able to get out to. Lots of swans and ducks and geese out there that we'll see. And then we're going to go and check out a pickleball court and try pickleball.
Awesome. Even me.
Even you.
Complete newbie.
Yeah.
It can't be that bad.
Yeah.
So have you always been devoted or committed to physical activity, or has that changed over time?
I've always been a fan of physical activity. It's always been something that when I was was younger, did lots of different sports and whatnot, and things changed after having a spinal cord injury and looking for different things that I could get involved with. But there's still lots of sports and activities that you can do. It takes a little bit more work to get it organized, but for me, it's worth it.
Yeah. So for somebody who might not have tried something new or adjusted after an injury or a change in their mobility, how would you recommend going about it?
Well, I get, talking to peers, getting introduced to a particular sport through someone that that you might, meet on your own or through the peer sport program at SCI, and that's kind of the best way, I think, just getting an introduction to it. There are some different clubs that are associated with, sailing for people with disabilities and, kayaking and those kinds of things. So you can, find those places and contact them to go out and try something. But I would say just, once you find out about something that interests you, give it a try and see how it goes. Lots of winter sports as well, like cross country, sit skiing, downhill sit skiing. That's something that I've enjoyed over the years.
And what about the cost? How do you, what have you noticed over the years with the availability of free, accessible recreation opportunities versus things that require some investment?
Yeah. Well, it really varies. Like, something like pickleball, the cost is negligible. It's, buying the rackets and then, finding a community tennis court like what we're going to go to today. Something like doing the biking, a bike like this is in the, around $5,000. So, it is an investment, but then you're going on trails and whatnot, there's no cost after that.
Okay, thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
That was such a fun day, checking out 3 accessible, fun recreation activities in the Collingwood area. And if you are looking for what's accessible and outside near you, you can reach out to us online. Rematch? Yes. Thanks for watching this episode of Underestimated. Thank you to our guests for sharing their experience and expertise. To learn more about the services and resources Coretree and Spinal Cord Injury Ontario provide, visit our websites. I'm Tori Bowman on behalf of ODA and all our guests. Thanks, and see you next time.